Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ellen, or EllenKernMUA on Instagram, and today we are going to be talking about neons. So I have my biggest tips for neon pigments and for UV eyeliners, neon eyeliners, and I'm just doing this because I've gotten a couple questions about it recently, like, for that glow in the dark, do you use some special makeup or lighting? Yes. I've just had a couple of people wondering how I get my pictures to look the way that they do. So today I'm going to be talking about like the basics of using neon pigments, because neon pigments are really hard to use, and it took me a lot longer than it usually takes me like to get to know a product to get to know neon pigments, or just pigments in general. Pigments are different than regular eyeshadows because it's just pure loose pigment and there's no other things in there that are formulated to help it be like creamy and apply like an eyeshadow. It's just like a loose powder basically, so it doesn't work like an eyeshadow. Okay, so my biggest tips for using the neon pigments are to always start with a sticky base. Don't start with a base that is set, because like I said, it's just a loose powder. It really needs something to stick to. There's nothing in that powder that's gonna help it stick to your face, so start with like a concealer or foundation and just don't put powder on top. Okay, and then the next thing, unless you're going for this look, unless you're like being artistic about it and going for the look of purposefully using too much, don't use too much, because it's really easy to use too much. Because it's a loose powder, it's easy to like dip your brush in there and just pick up a whole lot of product, and then it's like, whoa, it's so pigmented. And then once you have all of that product on there, if you try to blend it out, it'll just blend out for ages because you put so much on your face. So just put a little bit so that when you blend it out, it doesn't go that far. And these are all just my tricks, what I find works best, so totally like do what you want. But what I have found works best is to apply it with one brush and then to blend it out with a clean brush, just because they're so tricky to work with, and you really just have to take your time and just go in and with like little amounts and go back and forth between just applying a little bit, blending it out, applying a little bit, blending it out, because like I said, the easiest thing to do with the pigments is to just put way too much on, and then it just looks super harsh and it's just like a line, and it doesn't look like eyeshadow anymore at all. So if you're trying to blend the pigments, I would say this is a good starting amount. There's barely anything on the brush, but that's okay, you can build it up. And then this would be an example of like what you don't want to do, way too much on the brush. And this is definitely what I did at first, and what I think a lot of people tend to do at first. It's okay. But as you can see, if you initially go in with too much, it just makes it absolutely impossible to blend out. It just keeps going up, and it just looks messy, and yeah. Also, ignore my eyebrows, please. I was just doing this for the sake of this tutorial. But anyway, as you can see, just in general, if you start with smaller amounts, you're able to make it more controlled, and it takes a lot longer this way, but it ends up looking better, and it's a smoother blend. Just go back and forth, picking up small amounts at a time. And if you really want to be crazy about getting that blend right, you can apply it while you're looking at it under the black light, which is what I do. The black light, it's terrifying because it shows you literally every mistake when you're using anything UV. And anything UV is usually just so difficult to work with, but it's so beautiful. So even the eyeshadows I have on right now are UV activated. You can see them, just the orange and the yellow, not any of the reds. My next trick, if you're trying to use pigments as eyeshadows, is to bake, and to bake like a lot. So if you're doing eyeshadow, you know, like up in this area, that's where you're using the pigments, put a lot of powder here, because the pigments, they fall like crazy. Like I said, they're not a regular eyeshadow. It's not even fallout. It's just like it falls everywhere. And if you're not doing anything with the black light with the pigments, that might be okay. Like if you're using a yellow eyeshadow and it falls out everywhere, you might not be able to see it, and that's fine. But the second you put the black light like on your cheek or something, every little dust of like pigment from your eyeshadow that fell will show up, and it's so frustrating. So yeah, definitely if you're doing a look where you can bake and it's not like a full face kind of thing, bake. Also, as far as where to get these pigments, I'm seeing them pop up like everywhere. I don't have any kind of sponsorship with anybody. I list where I get my pigments in my description. I list every product I use, but it seems like there are a lot of different companies that you can get these pigments from. So wherever you find them, I think they're all kind of pretty much the same. They all look the same. I haven't actually tested different brands, but they all look the same. but I haven't tested them, so like I can't say that for sure. I don't know. So I've noticed that a lot of different brands pretty much sell the same neon pigment. So I just wanted to Google quickly neon pigments, and these are kind of like the things that I'm talking about. A lot of companies sell these stacks or just these little jars of the pigment, and it seems like the first link that you click on here, you can buy like bulk of these pigments. So my guess is what these companies are doing is they're coming on websites like this and buying like, say, a 1 pound jar for $77 and then dividing that up into a bunch of little pots and then, you know, making money from doing it that way. And the neon pigments are like the craze right now, so it kind of seems like the thing to do. So it's pretty smart, but I think that's what they're doing because it seems like every company's neon pigments are the same, and that's just like one wholesale website. They also sell them all over Etsy. They all look the same. So I really think this is kind of like people repackaging pigments, which is okay, but I guess knowing that, make sure you buy the cheapest pigment that you can find if they're all the same. Okay, something else I've been wanting to look up really quick while I'm on this like neon pigment Google search is if they're safe for the eyes. And Sugar Pill Cosmetics says the FDA has not yet tested or approved the use of neon pigments in the immediate eye area. Safe for use on European and Canadian eyes. So I guess if you're a European or Canadian, that's so weird. Ooh, this is interesting on Reddit. Makeup addiction. Makeup ingredients. Be very careful when buying neon fluorescent eye makeup. Okay, so it says that there are 8 fluorescent colors approved for cosmetics. None of them are allowed for use near the eye. Unfortunately, many indie companies are either unaware or choose to ignore it, which is really interesting because all these companies that are selling them are definitely indie companies. However, they get away with labeling their products with a generic name such as pigment. Okay, so it says people have had serious allergic reactions if applied to scarified or broken skin, and there might be a carcinogenic risk. Oh my gosh. So I guess buy this stuff at your own risk, guys. Okay, this place says they could cause irritation and lead to blindness, but it's literally just somebody's blog spot, so I don't know. I wonder what the deal is with this glitter sniffer. Like this and the last article mentioned that, and it says that people were injured due to that makeup. Maybe I should do a whole deep dive video on neon pigments. What happened with this glitter sniffer company? What happened to the people that were injured? Because it says not just irritation, but serious injuries. Interesting thing to think about. Sorry, I kind of went off topic there. Back to the video. Okay, now my tips with UV eyeliners. So I, of course, am talking about the Suva eyeliners, and they're not sponsoring me either. But anyway, their eyeliners are water activated. So the biggest trick with that is to get it to the right consistency. You don't want it to be too liquidy or too thick. If it goes on way thick, it'll probably crack immediately. If it's really liquidy, you probably won't have a good color payoff. It'll be like kind of see-through. What is the art word for that? Opaque? No, I think that's when it's like completely translucent. And there are a lot of videos on YouTube specifically about how to get the right consistency with those kind of products, so I'm not going to talk about that here. But if you're having a hard time with those products, look into consistency. Also, just a tip with the hydroliners in general, maybe this is common sense, but I'm an idiot. Don't use setting spray because obviously setting spray is liquid and they are water activated, so if they get wet, they just drip all over your face. And I think I've said that in videos before, but I just can't stress it enough. So I would just say no need to set your neon makeup. And honestly, I've kind of been like, I don't know. I've been thinking maybe I should do a video testing different setting sprays because I'm just kind of really doubting the whole setting spray thing in general. I'm thinking maybe it's just an extra step that makeup companies made up. Does it really work? Does it really make a difference? Because I used it for a long time. I've gone through many bottles of setting spray, but just recently I haven't been using it and my makeup seems to stay on equally as well. So I'm just like, was I wasting my money all that time? So I don't know. Let me know what you think about setting spray down below. I'm really curious. Do you think it makes a difference? And if you do, what's your favorite setting spray? I was using the Morphe one for a long time and I really liked it. And I mean, yeah, it was nice because it smelled really good and it like sprayed really nice. But anyway, this is totally off topic. With the UV hydroliners, make sure that you are using a small brush if you want to get a clean, precise application. Because like I said, UV stuff is really hard to work with, and especially with the black light, every mistake shows up. So I like to use the smallest brush that I can find. I usually like the Suva 610 and 620. 610 is the smallest. so that's usually the best. But sometimes if you're doing like a wing eyeliner, the 620 is better. And if I'm being like artsy and trying to do like really small detail work, the 610 is okay, but what I like to use more than that is actually this brush that I got for like $3-4 at Michael's. If I need to, I could get really fine lines with that. So yeah, just use small brushes, and that's pretty much it. I feel like other than that, the hydro liners are really easy to use. Definitely, I think the tricky thing to use is the neon pigment. So I hope this answers some questions on like how I'm able to get it to blend. Just patience, small amounts, just a small amount, blend. I think that having a clean brush, like applying it with one brush, having a clean brush really helps. So hope this answers questions. Hope this was helpful in some way, shape, or form. If you watched this far, thank you so much. And if you are not already, make sure you are following my Instagram at EllenCurranMUA. It has been very neon over there recently. All right, thanks for watching. Bye guys.